Unfortunately, modern 911 motors are getting packed in tighter and tighter. To remove the resonance tube on your 991 Gen 1, you will first need to remove the engine cooling fans, tail lights, rear bumper cover, airbox, and throttle body. I also like to remove the oil intake tube, red arrow, just to give me some more room. Please follow the link provided at the end of this video for additional assistance with all those tasks. You're going to do a partial engine drop. You will also need to release the rear sway bar so you can lower the engine enough to get clearance needed between the top of the engine and the chassis. Again, please follow the link provided at the end of this video for additional assistance with those tasks. Squeeze in the connection for the purge tube and separate it from the resonance tube, red arrow. Remove the EVC purge valve and reach into the back of the 1 to 3 intake runner. Use an E12 torque and remove the single screw holding the bracket to the top rear of the intake runner. This will make removing and installing the band clamps much easier. Again, please follow the link if you need additional assistance with that task. Use a pick and pull out on the red tab, red arrow, and then push down on the black tab and separate the electrical connection for the absolute pressure sensor. Squeeze in on the connections for the PCV tubes and separate them from the resonance tube, red arrow. Use care as these get very brittle. Use a T30 torque and remove the single screw on each band, red arrows. Always replace these screws. With a partial engine drop, you can remove the bands. These bands can get really stuck on there. Use a pick to help separate them. Free the bands completely from the tube. This image shows how the bands connect at the rear. The top one will slip out from the lower one. Use a trim removal tool and separate the gasket from the intake runners. Push the gasket completely onto the resonance tube, red arrow. These gaskets get a lot of heat sink and dry out and crack. If you are planning on doing this, I recommend always replacing the gaskets and ordering them ahead of time. Ours were so cracked and split that it was easier just to cut them off. This image shows the air gap between the resonance tube and the intake runners that the gasket seals, red arrows. You can now remove the resonance tube from the engine. If you have an S, you will need to disconnect the vacuum line from the valve at the rear for the tuning flap, red arrow. You now have access to the top of the engine. Installation is the reverse of removal. Clean the resonance tube and intake manifolds as best you can with a lint-free cloth. Use care around the tuning flap on the 3.8 engine. Lightly spray both rubber sleeves with silicone spray when installing them, and you should be able to pull them completely around 360 degrees the resonance tube once installed. The stop bead must be seated between the tube and the intakes. Always replace the self-locking screws and torque them to 4.5 Newton meters or 3.5 foot-pounds. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out another video in this series.